Today is Friday, March 2nd, 2018. Here's what's ahead.
Honoring Billy Graham. Today, the world remembers America's pastor as he's laid to rest in North Carolina. Hear the latest on when Congress is expected to take action and stop tax dollars from being used to reward Palestinian terrorists. We're sitting down with Bethel Music's Corey Asbury to hear the story behind the beautiful worship song, Reckless Love.
And welcome to the show. I'm Reverend Graham. We are coming to you today from Nashville, Tennessee, home to the Southern Baptist Convention. Of course, one of its most famous members, evangelist Billy Graham. And today, we celebrate his life and legacy. For more on that, we head now to Charlotte, North Carolina, where our John Jessup is following the details.
After a week of reflecting in his home state of North Carolina and the Capitol Rotunda in Washington, family, friends, and fellow ministers of the gospel are in Charlotte to say goodbye to the Reverend Billy Graham. On the grounds of his library, more than 2,000 guests will honor Graham in a service he helped plan himself, featuring songs from Michael W. Smith and the Gaither Vocal Band, tributes from his family, and a sermon from his son, Franklin.
Use us, O God, as you used evangelist Billy Graham.
Often called counselor to the presidents, Billy Graham was also a simple man with a family left to mourn his death.
How are you all holding up?
Tired and you know, mentally and physically exhausted, or getting to that point. But it's also been mixed in with celebrating Daddy Bill's life.
You keep saying Daddy Bill.
Yeah.
So, one, can you tell us how he got that name?
I have no idea. I just know Daddy Bill and Tete. That was what we call my grandmother.
As a teenager, Chivijan says he learned about faith and humility when he found his grandfather alone in a New Orleans hotel room after praying at a political convention.
I knocked on the door, and sure enough, Daddy Bill opens the door. He's in his pajamas. And I never will forget looking out of the corner of my eye on his bed, and there you could tell he had been sitting, and his Bible was open.
He says that's just who his grandfather really was.
It was a glimpse of the authentic Billy Graham, that when left alone, if he had the choice of spending time with Jesus or going out and spending time with the influential politicians, he chose Jesus. And that memory has always stuck to me, because I left that night feeling a bit convicted, but remember leaving going, man, that's the real deal. Lord, help me to know and love you in that way.
It's a quality also noted by scholars.
That's one thing that makes him distinctive, that he wasn't in it for himself, that he was in it to build Christ's kingdom.
People are remembering Billy Graham's legacy not just here in America, but across the globe. And even though he had worldwide impact, his ministry was always rooted in the local church.
He did contribute to, even create, modern evangelical Christianity in the U.S. and contributed to this global Christian movement.
He did it using media to promote the gospel, while he also promoted others like Pastor Greg Laurie.
I really got to know the man Billy Graham. And you know, people ask, well, what was he like? Well, he was the same man privately that he was publicly.
Pastor Laurie believes even as people say farewell and celebrate his homegoing, every Christian believer can honor the legacy of the greatest evangelist of our time.
To me, the greatest tribute we could pay to Billy Graham is do what Billy did. What did Billy do? Billy proclaimed the gospel. That's the greatest tribute we could pay to a man who dedicated his entire life to doing just that.
John Jessup, CBN News, reporting in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Thanks, John. And now here's a look at the other big stories we're following for you right now in the CBN Newsroom.
Thank you, Ephraim. A powerful nor'easter is expected to hit along the Northeast today. 70 million Americans from the Carolinas to Maine are under alerts. The storm is expected to bring high winds, heavy snow, and flooding rain. Hundreds of National Guard troops have been called into Massachusetts ahead of the monster storm. Evacuations are already underway south of Boston. Vice President Mike Pence cast a tie-breaking vote to confirm one of President Donald Trump's nominees. Russell Vought is now the Deputy Director of the Office of Management. Last year, Vought drew national attention after Senator Bernie Sanders grilled him over comments he made about Muslims. Sanders said Vaught was unfit for public service due to his Christian beliefs. The Senate confirmed Vaught 50-49, and this is Pence's 9th tie-breaking vote in the Senate. Americans concerned about their tax dollars being used to reward Palestinian terrorists are waiting for Congress to take action on the Taylor Force Act. Jennifer Wishon is in Washington with an update on that legislation.
Today, hard-earned American tax dollars are being indirectly used to pay Palestinian terrorists to murder Jews and others in Israel. Here in Washington, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are working to put a stop to it. The Taylor Force Act cuts U.S. funding for the Palestinian Authority unless it ends its practice of pay to slay. That is, payments to terrorists and their families after a successful attack on innocent people. It's named for Taylor Force, an American combat veteran murdered while visiting Israel. After Force was brutally stabbed to death, the PA praised his killer and made sure his family is set for life. The PA has tens of thousands on its pay-to-slay payroll to the tune of millions, and the U.S. is the PA's biggest benefactor. It's a chilling practice that American lawmakers say must stop.
It bothers me greatly that the Palestinian Authority would be paying its young people to become terrorists. So you can see this bill go forward. Having said that, I stand ready to work with the Palestinians. I would like to give them more assistance, but Taylor Force has to be dealt with as a precondition for me.
The Taylor Force Act has already passed the House. The Senate was expected to vote on it this week, but that didn't happen. Since it involves funding, it may get rolled up into the comprehensive spending bill they'll vote on at the end of the month. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, healing the racial divide. See how Billy Graham's ministry helped to ease racial tensions.
Billy Graham is, of course, most famous for his large gospel crusades where millions came to Christ. But no celebration of Billy Graham's life would be complete without a look at the rarely told story of his role in the civil rights movement. Here's Charlene Aaron.
The year was 1953. America's borders were filled with racial tension and uncertainty. The Reverend Billy Graham was sailing uncharted territory when he did the unthinkable. He held a crusade in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where thousands of men, women, and children of all races sat together and worshiped the Lord.
But when God looks at you, he doesn't look on the outward appearance. The Bible says he looks upon the heart.
He took his fight to end segregation to the streets.
Graham had been preaching here at Madison Square Garden to thousands nightly, but very few blacks came. So at the suggestion of a colleague, he asked Reverend Howard Jones for help. Jones recommended that Graham take his message to the streets of New York, and that's exactly what he did.
He said, I decided I was never going to speak to any more segregated audiences. And he said, I want it to be that way. He said, what would you suggest that we do? I said, if blacks aren't coming, go where they are. He said, what do you mean? I said, go to Harlem.
Graham preached at Salem Methodist Church to thousands. The next week, he went to Brooklyn. And slowly but surely, the Crusades in New York became increasingly integrated. Prominent singer Ethel Waters attended the event and rededicated her life to Christ. Graham even invited his good friend, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to attend one of the events.
We thank thee this evening for the marvelous things which have been done in this city through the dynamic preaching of this great evangelist. We ask thee, O God, to continue blessing him, give him continued power and authority. And as we listen to him tonight, grant that our hearts and spirits will be open to the divine inflow.
Graham faced a flurry of criticism from both blacks and whites, but that did not deter him.
Some whites wanted to know why you would fool around with these people, you know. And some said, if you're going to integrate your team, we will not support you, we will not give you money. So they used all kind of pressures on him. But he said, I don't care. I'm going to stick by my guns.
Some of the criticisms were that Mr. Graham was not concerned about the black community and that he didn't speak enough about civil rights.
Graham went to Dr. King for advice.
Martin Luther King suggested to me that I stay in the stadiums in the South and hold integrated meetings because he was probably going to take to the streets. He said, I'll probably stay in the streets and I might get killed in the streets. But he said, I don't think you ought to, because he said, you will be able to do things I can't do and I can do some things you can't do, but we're after the same objective.
And so he did, holding crusades from Arkansas to Alabama.
So here we were, with neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood in my state on the verge of violence, and yet tens of thousands of black and white Christians there together in a football stadium. And when he issued the call at the end of the message, thousands came down, holding hands, arm in arm, crying. It was the beginning of the end of the Old South in my home state. I will never forget it.
He even went to South Africa, preaching before an integrated audience in 1973.
Man has a will of his own. God gave it to you.
Graham also worked closely with Presidents Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon, urging them to ensure equality for all.
Then there's the race problem. And this problem, it seems to me, should be put in its proper perspective. It is a world problem. Greater improvement is being made today in America than perhaps any great nation in the history of the world, because we at least are attempting to solve the problem through understanding, through dialogue, through legislation.
In the end, Graham's legacy is one that is filled with a message of love, togetherness, and unity.
But I think Billy has proven the fact that in Christ, there's no east or west or north or south. We just love him.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
And still to come, fatherhood, faith, and music. This worship leader shares the story behind his praise and worship anthem.
Bethel Music's Corey Asbury is a songwriter and singer, and right now his Reckless Love is riding the charts and a wave of celebration in churches across the country. I sat down with him recently in Studio 5 for this look at his music.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. Yeah, you did. You have been so, so kind to me.
Reckless Love, I know the biblical story behind it, but curious, where were you? What happened that that song was birthed?
Totally, yeah, two things for me. Number one was the birth of my son. When I held my son for the first time, it changed every idea that I held of God. Every idea that I thought of God, oh, well, because my earthly father was this, he must be this, right? And in a moment, it was like, oh my gosh, looked into his eyes, and you know, they look like alien when they're little kids. Yeah. but I looked into his eyes, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I have a capacity for love that I never thought I could have, ever. And so that was the first thing. Number two was our daughter, Lily. She had a couple of health complications, and we thought we'd lost her a couple times. You know, stopped breathing, and you know, we freaked out like crazy. And in the middle of that, the question of is God good or is he not became very real in my heart. And I actually had to ask some difficult questions of God, like, where were you? Why did you let this happen? And in the middle of that, he spoke so much into my life and into my wife as well. And those two things were kind of where it all came from.
What gave you the peace during that trying?
Asking the honest questions. Yeah. You know, I look at David in the Psalms, and I think a lot of people would balk at his language, like, oh my gosh, how could you say that to God? Where are you? Why have you forsaken me? Those things. And I began to ask God, like, what the heck? You know, like real questions. What is going on? Why is my daughter almost dying? Are you punishing me? Have I sinned? Have I done something wrong? And those were sort of the false paradigms that I held in my heart, like, oh, I must have done something wrong and now he's doing this to me. Yeah. And the truth of it is he used the whole thing to actually confirm to my heart his goodness, his kindness in the midst of all of it.
I'd like to go back to Reckless Love and talk more about the album cover.
Yeah.
Because totally. I understand that sort of introduces us to your life.
Yeah. So there was a single cover of Reckless Love that came out. It was me looking like a goofball of a little boy, you know, with spiky hair and just kind of a weird looking little guy. And then the record cover, the full length comes out and it's me holding my little boy about the same age. And like I mentioned earlier, so much of it is looking at myself when I was a little boy and realizing that I wasn't really able to receive love in a real way until I had my own son. Yeah. And the phrase that the Father kind of dropped into my heart was, I had to become a father to learn how to be a son. That's what it took for me to learn how to actually live in the delight and smile of the Father. I had to have my own little guy, you know, and realize what it feels like to have that experience. And so that's it. I know it's kind of, some people are like, what the heck? What is going on, man? And I'm going, no, this is my story. This is what the Father has taught me over the years.
You know, hearing you talk about that young age, the relationship with your father, the relationship you now have with your children, and understanding the relationship that God the Father has with us. How has that transformed your relationship with your own dad, your earthly father?
Oh yeah, it actually really has changed quite a bit. And you know, my dad and I sat down after Gabriel, my son, who was on the cover, was born. There began to be some real restoration, and the Lord began to kind of knit our hearts again, because it almost felt like he had a second chance. Yeah. My dad had a second chance with Gabriel, and we had those honest conversations where I said, Dad, this was difficult for me as a little boy. No. You know, and he went, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that, you know, and I'm sorry. And it was, to me, it was a fleshing out of the end of the book of Malachi, where it says, I'm turning the hearts of the fathers to the sons and the sons to the fathers, and it's often through repentance. Yeah. Us going, I'm so sorry that I was like this as a teen. Yeah. And him going, you know, I'm so sorry that I was like that to you. And so there was a lot of restoration that came from that place.
Still you give yourself away. In all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Well, the weekend is here, and perhaps you're headed to the movie theaters and are looking to know what's good for families at the box office. Let's check in with Focus on the Family right now for this look.
Who else have you told this?
I told you, no one else.
In the movie Every Day, 16-year-old high schooler Rhiannon is your typical teen trying to enjoy life. But her boyfriend Justin makes that a little tough. He doesn't seem to care about anything that she cares about, and she would probably do something about it, but she feels like there are no other options. Until one day, that is, when Justin surprises her with a trip to nearby Baltimore. They have a wonderful time together, but when she approaches him the next day, he can't remember a thing. It turns out that an entity called A has temporarily inhabited Justin's body.
The day that Amy shadowed you at school, I was Amy, and the day that you went to the beach with Justin, I was Justin. It's not possible. It is.
This spirit-like person has no choice but to wake up every day as someone who is always the same age, but never the same person twice. Trouble now is, Rhiannon thinks she's finally found her soulmate. She just doesn't know who he or she will be next. This teen romance explores the fact that love can be a difficult challenge. It also demonstrates the importance of loving someone for who they really are, not for who you want them to be. However, the film also barely conceals the fact that it's encouraging viewers to see gender as something that transcends the supposed biological limitations of male and female. add in sensual situations and rough language, and I'm giving Every Day a 2 out of 5 for family friendliness. For an in-depth review of this film, or really anything else at your local theater, be sure to visit us at PluggedIn.com. Plugging you into the movies, I'm Bob Waliszewski for Focus on the Family's Plugged In Movie Review.
And right now it is time for your Friday Faithful. I'd like to leave you with some words from evangelist Billy Graham. He once said, "Being a Christian is more than just an instantaneous conversion. It is a daily process whereby you grow to be more like Christ." That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. And remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about always at cbnnews.com. And we'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Until next time, goodbye and God bless.